All right, this is the final video on the Kettenkrad build. As you can see, it is finally completed, all put together, painted, weathered, and all that. It came out pretty good for a bear of a kit that it was. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. The track will require all 40 track shoes. So the instructions say 39 right there. Yeah, you have to use all 40. But other than that, with the track, wasn't any problems other than those. I'll show you right here. These little connector pins right here, they're small and they're fragile. I ended up breaking the track, just gently just manhandling it around to paint it. It broke and required a remedial fix. But the interior, or driver's compartment, whatever you want to call this, came out pretty decent. The front wheel. Now what I did, so I could, weather back in behind the wheel, because as you see, you're going to have tires splashing up mud and dirt and whatnot behind there. If you go ahead and attach that, it'll be somewhat of difficult to do. But what I ended up doing was I built all this up, but I didn't attach D18. All right, I held that for the last part to put in, and then what I did is this here is the part D13 that slides down into the mount for the front steering. And then I went ahead and glued D9 and D10 on, and then D18, right, will slide up in there, and then you can just glue it to its attachment point right there on the wheel. So that right there. So that way you can take this, keep this off, go ahead and weather the rest of the Kettenkrad, because with this, with this front wheel on, that would be extremely more difficult to do. So that's how I did that. And it worked out pretty well. So that way I could weather the back of the tire, because you're not going to be, that's going to be difficult to do. And to top it off, this is very flimsy, very, very delicate. I mean, it just has those two attachment points, right? And I didn't want anything to break. So that's what I ended up doing. And then also on the build, where you have the sides right here, and then you glue, this is supposed to represent the fuel tank, one on each side of the driver. You had that huge gap from right here on the side, which had been about right here, which required a lot of filling and sanding. I mean, it came out okay, but you definitely lost a little bit of detail, trying to take care of that. And it was on both sides, right? So you gotta be careful with that. and I was thinking, even though I didn't do it, is if you go ahead and glue these sides on and be able to get a good tight fit here, then glue this part on C3, and it might be a better fit. So that'll definitely, hopefully, would reduce the amount of filling and sanding that you would have to do. Right? Because I was like looking online, and there is not a lot of very like detailed pictures of the Kettenkrad. Yeah, you see guys driving them around or something like that, but there isn't really anything very detailed. So I went on Amazon and bought that book. And all this book, the Kettenkrad, it has a lot of in-action photos like that, which is cool, right? You know, that one's obviously set up for telephone cable. But the black and white photos aren't that great either. So, I mean, this one, it just doesn't, that's all interior stuff, but it doesn't really show too much. And you got a front wheel, gearbox, you know, here's a braking and steering mechanism. You know, if you're doing something like that and want to expose the battery side of it, the fuse box and interior air cleaner and all that, that'd be good for that. Another in-action photo. Even shows a photo with like winter style tracks on it. In-action photos, in-action photos. So it's nothing any really detailed. But there was an interesting fact that I did not know is they built these things out until 1948. So for 3 years after the war, they were still building Kettenkrads. You know, mostly used for agricultural work. You know, orchards, wineries, things of that nature. So how many Kettenkrads are in museums right now that aren't actually, you know, were served in the war? Just a little interesting tidbit about that. And then on the back here, on the license plate, right, you have two options. You can do kind of like this, you know, rectangular one with cut out corners, or you can do a full rectangular one. But you got to paint it white. There isn't a decal that is white with, you know, the license number, you know, in it. So you got to paint this white and then, you know, put out the decals. And I showed you before where the pintle here is pivotable. It'll pop out of there, which is pretty neat. It's got a lot of different markings, which is cool for this build. You can definitely get, you know, some variety out of that. But yeah, the tracks are definitely an issue, so you got to watch that when you build this. You definitely have to watch this gap right here when you go to attach the sides. You got to be mindful of that. And this front wheel here is pretty delicate, so watch that. And also if you see ejector pin marks, I showed you before, back here in the back there were ejector pin marks I had to take care of. So be mindful of all the ejector pin marks, because this thing does have them. It's loaded with them. I pretty much built this one straight out of the box. Right, there should be a power cable here for the light, you know, throttle cable, you know, I didn't add that. because one is it's kind of hard to tell where it goes, so I didn't put them in there. But the interior is our driver's compartment, pretty well detailed. The high-low on the transmission right here, and then the transmission gear selector, those are decals. So that's pretty neat. Of course, the I guess the speedometer, tachometer, and whatever the other little third one is, those are decals. I just put in a drop of future floor wax, kind of like that's for the lenses on them. Came out pretty decent. So you will have to, as you build, you are going to have to put decals on the inside. You know, like there's a little data plate kind of a thing there. And there's one down there by that little gear selector. So, yeah. You're going to have to kind of paint and decal as you go. Unless you think you can put one in there like that and not have any issues, but yeah. No problems with the photo etch, and went in there, no problems. Yeah, you got to bend it a little bit, but that's a small curve. Now, when I had to install this and all the back seats and everything, just test fit everything back here too, because these are separate pieces. I had to like clamp the sides together here to close that gap. But other than that, nothing major. Just a lot of cleanup, dry fitting, and prep to get the get this thing to come together. But I think it came out pretty well. I was really bummed about these sides right here, so I just didn't want to do all that sanding, but you just got to bite that bullet and do it. And it came out surprisingly well. I was really worried about that, so I'll take that as a win. The decals went on pretty well. Not a lot of carrier film, just a little bit of microsol. Got them to nestle down really easy, and they came out nice. I didn't get too crazy with the weathering, I don't think. A lot of guys seem to like really, I think, go overboard on that. Rusting and everything, streaking. Yeah, that's fine. If that's what you like, do it. Personally, I think less is more, and it goes a long way. Yeah, even got the little tire pressure decal right there. So it's got plenty of little decals, stenciling plates, you know, right there. But overall, it came out pretty nice. A lot of work, you know, but I think the end product is worth it. I mean, you got to think about it. What is this, like a $20 or $30 kit? It's not very expensive. Probably more 30. It's not very expensive, so, and it's not a Tamiya, so you know, so you're gonna have to put some modeling skills into effect here. But overall, I think it came out pretty nice. You know, learned more about the Kettenkrad than I knew before. So if you haven't built this kit yet, and you like these little small vehicles, I would say go ahead and do it. I think you'll really like the finished product on it, and you'll get some enjoyment out of it. But yeah, there it is, the 1/16 scale Freedom model kit, Kettenkrad, finally done. So if you think about it, give a like and comment. Thanks.